Okay, full disclaimer on this video because I know exactly what's going to happen. People are going to watch this and and they're going to be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you didn't know that. You didn't know that." And, well, I don't know everything. I like to share what I know. I like to share what I learn. And I learned a lot on this particular deal here, and that's what we're going to go through here and talk about. Yes, I did not know about having to add a diode into the alternator, the field output, or the exciter output, basically, or input, so that it doesn't backfeed and keep the engine running. This car had an extra switch wired in it when we got it, and you know, any of the stuff that I work on, things like that, all that stuff's, you know, like built in, you know, because I'm working on stuff that's original and all that stuff, and not something that's been built into a muscle car or race car or anything like that. So no, I did not know that. Don't jump all over my crap about it, because I know that's what people are gonna do. But in the meantime, I did find a short, and we did have two bad alternators right out of the box, two different brands, which was very disappointing, which we didn't need either one of them because that wasn't our issue. But you know, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of tactics, there's a lot of wiring, this stuff like that that you can pick up and learn how to do, as far as using test lights and this, that, and the other, to be able to, you know, test different circuits, to be able to isolate and be able to figure out where your problem is. Even if you have some other kind of a problem, this might help you out a little bit. I know I'm not the most entertaining cat on the block, but I just try to give the information. And anyways, so here we go. Hey folks, welcome back. Well, we got this 1972 El Camino in here now. This actually belongs to my mom. We found it for her last fall, and just kind of now getting things ready to so that she could drive this thing around a little bit. And I'll kind of go over right now. We've got basically an issue that is the alternator causing the vehicle to not shut off, and we'll get into that a little bit as to what's going on with that. Just kind of quickly go over like some of the stuff we're going to end up doing. You know, we got a turn signal switch to do. We've got rear airbags to put on, just those helper airbags in the springs. We've got a little bit of wiring here and there, but jets to replace on the carburetor, because it's pretty much built. It's got a pretty sound built 383 in here, and it's pretty much, the guy had it pretty much set up to like do some quarter mile racing out of the drag strip and all that stuff. So we're gonna, like, you know, tone down the jets and all that kind of stuff, just so that, you know, my mom can drive this car. We really just wanted to get one that was kind of sort of a daily driver, but maybe had a little bit of oomph in it too, when a person might want to have a little bit of fun. But you know, one thing was this color was her favorite color, so we just had to go with this one. And this thing drives phenomenally down the road. It is really nice driving vehicle. But anyways, let me talk about a little bit. So when we got it, he had a switch underneath the dash. You know, people call it a dead man switch or whatever, but it was really just kind of a switch to just turn the ignition on and off. You just turn the key like normal, turn that switch on, and then turn the key to start position and crank it, start and go, and then shut it off. You know, you just turn the key off and shut the other switch off to shut the engine off. Didn't really want to have that, so I wired it up with this relay and everything, and I was actually filming this, but all that footage got all screwed up and everything. So, but basically what it is we've got, you know, your power coming in from the key switch, and it's got to be a switched power, because there's a couple of in the fuse deal, like for the radio and for the heater and all that kind of stuff, that when you turn the key to the start position, they go off. You don't want your ignition being on that. So that's running this relay, and then this relay is in turn getting power, you know, straight from the battery via an inline fuse, and then together between the ignition and the wire for the automatic choke. And I mean, we're going to clean all this up, and we're actually going to not leave that relay there. I even got, it's going to be something kind of similar to this pigtail here. You know, this is something that I got, but I actually found and sourced another one, you know, because this will hook your wires into, and then you'll just plug your relay right straight into this, and then these wires are in there a lot cleaner, you know, because right now you've got wires that are exposed, that are hot all the time. You get one wire at least on there, and you don't want that. And then we'll tuck that relay back, probably screw it to the firewall or something like that. But I actually got one of these. It's a relay and a plug that comes together, but it's actually got a rubber seal, so when you got it all closed and everything, it's all waterproof, everything like that. So I'll probably film showing how that goes. But anyways, right now we've got an issue that when you turn the key off, this thing won't shut off, and it's the alternator causing it. But we'll kind of go through the best I can. I don't have like a internal diagram to the alternator, but I know that there are diodes and this, that, and the other in there, and so there's something going on. One of the first things I found was these wires, okay, are just like this, and I'll show you a schematic of these Delco alternator, but they were on this position right here. You know, they were like this. That's how I found them. This wire was connected to and went back, you know, that white wire went back, you know, back in there somewhere. And I don't have a wiring schematic for this car, because this looks like some of the actual original wiring and whatnot. Anyways, and so the first thing, you know, an alternator does work that way. It charges. One of the things I do notice, you know, that when you turn it on here, you know, you got your generator light coming on right there. But as I got to looking at, you know, which wire that came from that generator light, that's this wire right here. Well, that's not the right position. You need to have the generator light needs to be in the terminal that's closest to your battery, and then this terminal right here for your field, this just needs to be connected somewhere to B+. I just decided to go ahead and just land it right here, which is totally fine. And so with that like it is, and the alternator will still work even like that, but I just want to show you now. Look at how much brighter that light is. So obviously there was something that we fixed and went wrong there. Let me get a flashlight. Okay, let me go through with what I found, what I was seeing that led me to believe, you know, that it was the alternator that was causing this issue. First thing was, I'll show you down here in the fuse panel. Okay, so right here, this yellow wire coming off this fuse, I think it says something like DIR signal, I don't know. Anyways, that's a you know, it's a 20 amp fuse, but it's switched B+ from your switch, but it also remains powered up in the cranking position too, whereas like you go up here to your radio, your wiper, your heater, all that stuff loses power when you go into the start position, because you know, if you leave your heater on and you turn the key on, it's better to start the engine without having that stuff on, so it momentarily turns the power off, and then when you release the switch after the engine starts, then they come right back again. But this one does not. It stays going, and that's what we needed. I don't know where the original, or how it was all original done. You know, I mean, obviously this thing's had plenty of stuff, you know, that's not original done to it. So we're just gonna have to just go in and just, you know, make stuff work for right now. Probably later on we'll try to get this thing pretty much as close to original as we can, just it being nice. I mean, obviously we're not even an original color or anything like that, so it's pretty much just is what it is. So if you're an El Camino purist, I'm sorry, but you know, this wasn't I like to have my cars and everything, you know, as close to original as I can. That's just the way I like it. Not to say that I'd love tinkering with something like this too. So it just is what it is. And you know, things that we're going to do later on is do stuff like get the air conditioning working in here and everything like that. So probably even put maybe an overdrive transmission, or we're going to raise the gear ratio, do something so that, you know, I don't know what gear ratio this thing has in it, but it's pretty low. And you know, set up for racing, quarter-mile track or whatever you want to do, burn the tires, this, that, and the other. But anyways, back to this. So you know, with our test light in here, we click the key on. See, there we go with that. So how I found this was obviously the first time I got this all wired up and go to shut the engine off and it won't shut off. Like, whoa, what the heck's going on here, you know? Just went out and, I mean, when I needed to shut it off, I just pulled the wire on the distributor and, you know, boom, it shut off. But anyways, let's go ahead and fire this thing up right quick, and then I'm going to shut it down right quick, because I think, well, yeah, this is how I found it. So I guess it's gonna, so basically this is gonna be this is the key on, now this is the key off. See how dim that gets? When we come out here, leave the key off. We do have a generator light on. It's not as bright, but it's on. And I'll show you, you know, because that's, turn the key on, turn it off. Okay, now let's go to shut this off. Okay, you can do that all the time, and it'll just shut off, and then you can plug it back in. And it's right now it's not draining the battery. I'm gonna have to double check that. We might as well actually just double check that, because I know prior to me even messing with any of this wiring, when this thing was parked in the garage all winter, we had forgotten to remove the negative battery cable. But this battery was plenty charged up, and it fired this car up, and even the choke wasn't working that great, or wasn't even working at all actually. So it took a lot of cranking and retries to get it going, just to get it over here to the shop. So anyways, yeah, that's how I figured out this was the alternator, because I was realizing something's backfeeding into that, and there's enough voltage for that relay to just keep closed. And so I figured, you know, one of the things that could backfeed something like that in here, you know, is from the alternator itself. And that's when I went ahead and just pulled that wire and it shut off. And I've done that several different times and tried it. So I'm going to bring up on the computer just a basic little schematic of what we're trying to achieve here with these wires and whatnot, and what it needs to go. And then maybe I might be able to find something of an internal diagram of this alternator to try to figure out, you know, maybe what's actually going on with the alternator. But I do have a new one here, because I'm actually not sure you know, how to troubleshoot beyond this. I know that we get the power from this wire right here from the key switch, and we get, and it'll light up a test light, and then it's good voltage and everything like that. It's gonna be a little bit low because it's coming through the light bulb, but we do get, you know, well, actually it's gonna be a little bit of resistance through the light bulb, but and you know, and then obviously this wire just goes right, you know, just needs to be on a power source. I'll show you that. But beyond that, you know, if you're troubleshooting an alternator that's not working, you know, you need to have this input on this wire to get the process started. and then this right here is, you know, connected to the field, and then your internal regulator of your alternator pretty much does everything else based on the input here, so that when it starts to get up to you know, 14 whatever volts or whatever, it starts backing the charge down as it takes less to charge the battery, you know, because of after it running a while. You know, you discharge the battery when you crank the engine and start it. It's going to take more amperage to get the battery up to being charged, but then when you're running for a while, it's going to take less. So that's what your internal regulator does, and that's what we have going on. This is really about as simple as it gets as far as alternators go. And then yeah, let's go have a look at that schematic. Anyways, I was just going to Google search it. It's not really a schematic, but it is a pretty cool little picture here. So anyways, you've got your positive coming off here, and it's going to land either on the starter, or it's going to do this particular connection somewhere else on the vehicle, but it will need to get and be on your switch so that it's ready to go. Now when you turn your key switch to the on position, you're now sending power to this light. Now when this alternator is not turning and not charging, you are completing a circuit through that terminal right there, which I told you was the closest one to the main battery terminal. And when this thing starts turning, that basically that kind of that ground goes away and will turn that light off. So when you first turn the key on, you leave the key on, you're completing a circuit, so your battery light or your generator light, whatever your vehicle has, will turn on. And then when this engine starts to crank over and start, and this begins to, you know, charge and turn, basically that goes away, turns your light off. Tells you that the alternator is indeed charging. That's what that's for. And then obviously you've got the other terminal right here. That's that short little white wire that we just basically, that's all this needs to do is just get referenced into this power, and this is a good place to put it. And then you've got your actual wire, which is, you know, bigger wire and everything like that going, and it can land on the starter, or it can just go straight to the battery. It's probably what we're going to end up doing to clean up some of the wiring. I'll show you actually one spot that I, you know, why I would do that, you know. And anyways, and this is obviously is here for an area for you know, a tachometer and all that stuff. Like I said, it's about as simple as it gets right there, you know. And you got your battery ground here, and then you got, you know, this grounds through the case of the alternator. That's as simple as the system as you're ever going to find as far as any of this goes. The even simpler systems, but I won't get into it too much, is instead of actually having like a key switch, I've seen some old tractors that are, you know, mechanical diesel fuel pumps that, you know, all they don't even have an on switch with the key. They just have a start position, a momentary start position, and it uses the oil pressure switch to turn this particular function on and off. You know, this is what you're wanting to turn on and off as far as, you know, triggering that alternator to start charging, because without this particular terminal being started up, or either one of these deals like this, you can sit there and turn this deal, and usually they won't charge much, because they just don't have no reference of anything going on. It needs to have voltage. It needs to have reference voltage to be able to charge correctly. So that's what we got going on. And so we're gonna, you know, I'm gonna get I've got a new alternator, and we're gonna do some kind of testing, like maybe some resistance testing between like here and these couple of terminals here, because maybe this thing being wired up wrong or something, maybe I've screwed something up inside of here as far as like the, you know, this internal regulator that's in here. I don't know. All I know is it wasn't right. It was working, but it was no matter which way you have the wires, it will work, but it still always back feeds into the ignition, and causes that to, you know, because it's really back feeding through this terminal here, the one on the left closest to this battery terminal. It's really what it's back feeding through, and it's back feeding through the light and all that stuff, and keeping that particular system going. All right, folks, well, we're continuing on here. got the new alternator installed in here, and it's wired up, you know, exactly correct. And then I noticed, you know, that we've got a pretty good amp draw here, which, you know, the next thing you want to see if that, with that big of a spark, it will definitely light a test light. You know, so I got this, it's just a license plate light, but you can see. And then I even got this this big test light here, 3 or 3.5 amps, I think it is, just a headlight bulb. You're just, you know, negative cable right here. That's a pretty big draw to be able to light that headlight up. So we've got an issue. Then now what I just did here was I unplugged that and it went away. Plug it back in. That is connected to here. So what we need to do is figure out what's going on as far as, you know, doesn't matter whether that one's plugged in or not. Yeah, it's just this one, which is in turn plugged in here. Now that goes all the way over there to this junction block here. So the next thing we got to do is we got to hook this back up and try to figure out, you know, what wire is doing what, you know, because I don't know what's going on with this thing, but we just have to figure out, okay, what is on that, you know, is causing this to happen. And then so the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that bolt right there, and individually it's going to, you know, there's going to be different orders or something like that. We're going to have to individually take each one of those off until this test light turns off, and then we'll know which way to go from there. You can also pull the fuses out in that fuse panel under the dash, and we'll start with that, you know, just seeing what we can find out from here, and then go from there. Okay, even with those, every single one of those disconnected, we still have the test light lit up. So that's not what's causing our issue. So basically I'm going to got to keep going and figure out, you know, what else is, and this was even unplugged. So basically it's just this that we've got hooked up, and that, you know, so I'm got to just keep eliminating stuff, you know, because this red wire right here is your main wire coming out, and it goes, you know, it's this wire right here and lands on this junction block here, and then one of these other wires goes out and eventually goes over to somewhere, I don't know, I'm not that knowledgeable on older GM stuff, so we'll just have to keep on going. As I figure it out, I'll keep you in the loop. Okay, so after digging around a little bit more, found some other couple stuff that's pretty interesting. So anyways, I disconnected, you know, this power wire off of here. You know, this is going to go, and that is that wire, that red wire right there, and it lands on the, you know, that terminal there. We were talking about, you know, getting it off of there, and then, you know, like this wire and this wire, one of the two, I think this goes down to the battery, or I mean down to the starter, which would land on the battery wire, because there is a, you know, it's got to be able to get to, got to get power into the car, probably through this orange wire, I would assume. I don't know, because the car is completely dead now. Like, you turn the key on, nothing goes on, so we're not missing anything else. What I found interesting was, now that this is unhooked, we still got power, enough power on this wire to light, test light. Other side's just going to ground on the engine block there. And then watch what happens when, I'm going to see if I can simultaneously do this, because we're still hooked up. Well, we aren't going to be now. So we got nothing. I can touch this on here and it won't spark or nothing like that. We've got these hooked back up the way they're supposed to be. And then what I'm going to do is just going to touch this to ground right here. And watch what happens. Touching the ground. So this wire is shorted somewhere where it's still getting power. And when it's all hooked up and everything, it's shorted somewhere. So the first thing I'm going to do is, a lot of this wiring is just really old and not going to really make it, you know, like factory, but down in here, I don't know if we can even get a shot of it or not. But you see that wire coming off of the, you see with it says positive on that cable, that wire coming off there. What I'm going to do is just, I'm going to go ahead and just clip that wire and see if this symptom changes right here, because that's where I think it's getting its power from. And somewhere between that point and up here, it's shorted together, kind of, you know, and grounded, kind of. Something's weird. Okay, so that did indeed cut the power off of there. And so now we don't have this test light lit up anymore. And then obviously nothing's happening when you ground this out. So what we're going to end up doing, I believe there's like a metal like wiring loom bracket deal on the back there. I'm pretty sure that's where the actual problem is. But what I'm going to end up doing is just running all new wires, and we're just going to go straight from here right along here to the battery, and then also from here we're just going to go along this original deal here and run a new wire to land over there so that we can get power into the car. And that's what we're going to do, because basically I clipped that deal off there. Instead of having the connection there, we're just going to make it here, and that way it's not down there. It's all up here, and then we'll try to make it look as nice as we can. We got to get some other wire and loom to put this in, get it all tied up. That'll be all later. We just want to get this thing working. And anyways, yeah, so we'll keep on going. Okay, so we still got the same issue going on here. And the interesting thing is, I know that I've got an issue with something staying on in here, you know, whatever is attached to this wire. Because when you touch it on here, it wants to spark with, you know, power hooked on here. This one, I don't know what it does, but it doesn't seem to do that, so it's fine. It's just unhooked right now because, and then also it doesn't really matter over there, but I got this unhooked, which runs over there. And as you can see, when we plug this in, we still got our issue. And I mean, there is nothing hooked to. We don't have, here's the wire for the generator light, and this is all this is doing is just going right here straight to the battery. You know, obviously this is not how we're going to do all of this. I'm just trying to figure this problem out, and then when we do that, then we'll put it all in here real nice. But I know somebody's gonna have something to say about that, but that's not our issue. So I'm not sure what's going on, unless you know, short it out or ruin the regulator or something like that in this new alternator by hooking it up, you know, with the wires, with our problem that we had before. That's one thing I could think of. So I'm just going to go ahead and get another one of these. They're not that expensive, and try that. And we're just going to hook it up exactly just like this. Make sure that because I don't know if anything else would be causing that. So you know, because really all we're doing, I mean, like I said, we've got this negative deal hooked up here, and the reason I'm doing this particular test is because if you don't do it this way, you just go to stick this on here and it's sparking. So you got to figure out why that's not supposed to happen. You know, that's not supposed to happen at all, especially on something this old. You might get some modern cars and stuff nowadays that'll do that a little bit, because something turns on when you first connect the battery. But no, not this. This is not going to do that. So you want to just be able to stick this on there without nothing. So anyways, the test light tells you, you know, what's going on. And obviously this is a really powerful test light, and it's got enough current drawing through here. I don't even know the amperage, but it's enough to light this light, so we know that that's way too much. So anyways, that's the next step there. That issue we'll deal with in the next video, just because we're getting too much on that. This video will continue on with you know, getting this new alternator in there, another new alternator, and going from there, and then hooking everything up and seeing if, you know, if it get it all fixed. We'll just keep going. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that this you know, alternator was, you know, perfectly grounded. So I know this is a whole mess of wires and all that stuff. We're just trying to figure this out, and so I'll be cleaned up later. Anyways, on the back side of here, right there, we've got this going over here to right straight to the battery. Wanted to make sure that that was grounded, everything like that. It's installed. We don't have anything hooked to it but the positive, you know, from the battery right straight to here. We've still got our issue, obviously, where, you know, we plug this in to the terminal it's supposed to be, which is this one right here, and we've got enough power to light this test light. And if that's the case, you plug this in and the battery's going to drain. All right, so one of the things I did was I was going through here and I was checking a few things, like, you know, coming, hold on a second. Okay, so we got our meter lead here, negative on the battery, you know, so we can come over here, you know, we got the 12.4. But what I noticed here right quick was I went ahead and just put this on the case of the alternator. And look, we got 3.7 volts right there. Trying to, so I'm lifting it up, trying to get all of this in the camera. Go back down, lift it up, back down. Which would mean, you know, obviously, so we've got something going on here. And the only thing I'm going to do right quick here, I don't think it's going to change anything, but we're going to take this wire off of here, completely eliminate that alternator out of this scenario here. All right, so now we don't have anything besides the ground connected to the alternator, which is fine because it's going to pretty much kind of ground itself out just being installed. But that's not going to cause anything in what we got going on. But you can see here, we still got our 3.678 volts going on there. So we're getting voltage introduced in here somewhere from this point in here somehow, because we eliminated everything out of here with this disconnected, and So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna disconnect all the wires over there and see if that's what's causing our issue. But one of the other things I did notice too, don't know how well you see that where that positive cable is right there, that how it's resting on the starter. Depending on how long it's been in there like that, I mean, it could have rubbed a spot right there, and it's partially got a little bit of insulation rubbed off of it to where it's making a little bit of contact, and it's introducing that power into there. I don't know, but we're definitely getting something going on here. But if it's not that, we're going to figure out from here what's happening there, because there might be something else still hooked up here that's getting power, you know, in this car somewhere. But there's no other wires left on the starter down there. We took the only wire and we clipped it off. That was in the earlier part of the video. We saw when we clipped that off, because we were getting a lot of power coming out of this wire here, and so it's just been one thing after another. But anyways, let's get that set of wires off of there and get them all by themselves so that we can just eliminate that. Okay, we've got them all pulled off of there. They look like they're touching each other, but they're actually not. Alternator's all disconnected. Still got it. So next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go down in there and I'm going to disconnect that positive, you know, where this cable runs right straight down to the starter. We're going to run it and we're going to disconnect it, maybe try to pull it up out of here. If we disconnect it and this voltage goes away, then we'll know where our problem is. If not, then we got to keep going. Okay, so I know, you know, that this is kind of a phantom voltage. It's still kind of weird, but you know, it's a little bit less now. But I got this test light hooked, other lead negative, this one right here, and as soon as we touch it here, I mean, the voltage goes to 0 and it won't light the test light. Release it, back on. So it is kind of a phantom voltage, but you know, my hunch was sort of correct on this. It was rubbing, but it hasn't rubbed all the way through. But anyways, we got that hooked up. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this positive wire back onto the alternator, and then we're going to hook up the this little short jumper wire here and see if our problem is still here, and we'll have the test light hooked in between these leads here, between the negative lead here and the negative on the battery, because we know if it'll light the test light, it's going to dang sure drain the battery. So let's keep on going there. Okay, yeah, got the test light hooked up, and we're going to go ahead and plug this terminal in where it goes, if I can get it. Okay, test light lights up, got 10 volts. Let's just see if by unhooking a test light, 12.3. I mean, we got battery voltage there, but obviously there's enough here to light this test light. So that's not phantom voltage there, that's real. I'm baffled at the moment. Not really sure what's going on. I wish I knew more about the internals of how these alternators work. Usually these are about as simple as you get with this type of stuff, but I'm having issues with it, and I'm bringing you all along with it. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is I've got two other ones here. This was the original one on here. This is one I thought I destroyed because we having this issue before I found the voltage issue the short issue that we had in there. But I'm going to go ahead and just wire this alternator just up by itself to a battery and see what we get. Okay, so this little experiment I got right here is exactly how I have this thing hooked up on the car. So we have a lead from the positive landed right there. Okay, then we've got our negative landed right there, which is not connected to the battery, but is connected through this test light. And so when I hook that up, that's what we got going on. You can see which terminal it is. Okay. Now, if we unhook this, the reason why I'm making such a big deal of this is because this is what I first saw the very first time. You know, you can't have that. That ain't gonna work. So what I'm gonna do right quick is I'm just gonna check this one here right quick, but I don't know if what we've got going on. Like I said, I don't know enough about the internals of these, you know, how they work, but I'm gonna learn and figure it out because I gotta figure out this problem, see what's going on. Because, like I said, I thought I had wrecked this alternator or shorted it or did something when we had all our other problems in here. Because as you can see, that's the second new alternator right there. And yet we still got the same issue. So the next thing I'm going to do is obviously I'm just going to hook this up, you know, and the same way. I'm pretty sure we're going to have the same, you know, thing go on. And then from there, going to research and figure out, you know, why is this happening? All right, same thing. We've got from the positive right there. We got our little jumper here. Then we got negative, which is going right here and then connected through the test light. This is what I didn't expect. Didn't expect that to... I expected that to light. I really did. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this freaking thing back on there and see if we can get this thing to work. And then we'll recap what I think was going on. And I'm not 100% sure what the heck's going on with either of these two alternators or what, but yeah, a little bit baffling. Okay, the original one back in, wiring all as we had it before. I even added on this wire, even though it's not connected to anything. Down there, it's kind of touching the ground, but anyways, still got our phantom voltage there, but, you know, we can hook this test light up to it, and it goes away, not lit. Prime example of, you know, meters have their purpose, but you can get burned on them if you're not using them correctly. Now we plug this back in, still not lit. Okay, so next thing we got to do is now we can hook this wire up. This comes from our key switch, you know, via our generator charge light, because it says gen in the car. Alternator charge light, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to start hooking things back up, monitoring that test light, but, you know, I suspect we'll probably not have anything going on now. This is still baffling to me. I haven't figured that out yet, but we're going to get everything hooked back up here and see how this goes. Okay, got everything hooked back together. We got the fuse back in here, all landed on here. Got this looped over. We got our wire coming from our key switch through the alternator light. We're all connected over there, except for, you know, this frame ground. Obviously this I was trying to point out this frame ground right here. Which goes right there, or chassis ground or something like that. So now we just have this unhooked like normal. You know, this just goes straight. I mean, obviously, yeah, I could have this hooked on there too, but we've got no light. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted. Whether this works or not, we're going to find out here in a second. So we'll keep on going there. Okay, the whole reason we were doing all this test light stuff was because this was sparking, which it's not now. Okay, well, it works. Works really good, actually. Now I've went ahead and just unhooked this thing, hooked this test light. I mean, I'm using this one because clip's bigger, but we don't have any going on here that, you know, it's going to drain this battery. So basically what I am going to do is going to leave this battery hooked up tonight and see what it is in the morning. It should be fine. You know, everything is working. What we have here, I don't know yet. What happened. Now I suspected the first alternator that I got happened when we had the wire short in here. And I'm going to have to go back and actually watch my own footage and try to be able to figure out. I mean, if anybody does know what I did or anything like that, I mean, feel free to chime in. I mean, electrical is usually well, it is, you know, what I actually understand the most, you know, with anything. And this one just kind of caught me off guard for a little bit. I don't know. But I suspected the first, you know, and that's why I got the second new alternator. But the second new alternator, I don't know what, nothing could have really happened to that I'm aware of. But maybe I'll catch it on my video. I really don't know what the heck happened to have it have the same exact symptom as the other one. Whereas this one right here has been into everything. It either what I ever did to it, or whatever the short did to it, or whatever the previous owner did, and all the wiring. I mean, this thing's been through it all. And it's still working. It was even hooked up wrong. And it was still, I mean, it baffles me. I'm really baffled on this whole deal. But you just when you think you know it all or seen it all, something's always going to catch you off guard. You know, the other thing that I didn't point out too was, you know, remember in the very beginning of the video when we were starting to troubleshoot this whole thing about how dim that generator light was. You know, now look at it, you know, and I think everything's clear, hopefully. Why are we not cranking? Oh boy, it's been a long day. No wonder it ain't cranking to start. Enough to turn the light on in there, just because there's enough to go here. That's why we're not cranking. Try this again, take two. I don't edit any of that kind of stuff out because I'm human. It's just the way it is. All right, see how bright that is? That wasn't like that before because those things were hooked up wrong. right, we still have our original issue with the back feed, which there's nothing wrong with. It's interesting the fact what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add a diode into this wire right here. This one, not this one. This one right here. We're going to have to add a diode in there because it's just back feeding through. I don't know what to do different about that, but that's, you know, just something we're going to have to do. We did find a problem. We found a shorted problem in here, which we wouldn't have found had we not really have had this issue that I just now discovered. The thing won't shut off. But I don't know. I don't know how the chain of X. I'm going to have to go watch all the footage and all that kind of stuff and try to figure out, you know, from there where things went wrong. But, you know, you kind of followed along a little bit with me. I basically, you know, not every minute, but obviously, you know, when I got to certain points where explaining needed to be done, I tried the best I could. And, you know, we found some issues. Long and short of it, we got it back working again. Don't know what's going on here. That I'm going to have to investigate a little bit more. But anyhow, thanks for watching. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a diode in. We're just going to put it in right here, and this is the one here we got. And I'll just show you right quick how these work, so we know how to install it. So, all right, so essentially the diode lets current go through one way and not the other. Symbol for it is here's your wire. A lot of times you'll see them on a diagram. They might have a triangle, something like that. Maybe even sometimes they'll have deals like this or whatever, but you know, that's a symbol for it. You can see right here on the meter that this meter has a meter to actually check it. I'll show you both ways to do it, because you can also just check it with an ohm meter. And so yeah, we're going to put this over here. We'll start with the ohm meter, do it that way. The way your ohm meter actually works is it puts a little bit of voltage through it and measures, and that's how it comes up with the resistance. So you want to just figure, if you want to know the exact direction for this to go, because this has got no symbol or anything like that on it. It does have this little gray line here, which would indicate to me that the current flow would go this way and not go this way. So we'll start out with our positive on this end of the diode and negative here. Oops. Okay, so we got 261, it's K ohms, so 261,000 ohms. And then, you know, obviously OL is open between these two leaders, you know, so put the negative on this side, and the positive on this side, and we still got OL, because it's not letting the current go through there. But if you go here on the diode check, actually, we will we show you what they'll do. Like, this is a way to test a diode, because diodes become shorted, they become open, all that stuff too. So remember, OL's the open. Okay, so that would be like shorted together, which would be not shorted together, but just, you know, but there's a path through it right here. Oh, come on. Okay, so we got the negative on there on the entrance of the diode, and it's showing OL because it's not shorted. Now we'll go ahead and put the positive on that side, And right now it's showing that there's 5.38 volts, you know, going through there, but that's indicating, you know, that that diode's working, doing its job. Well, there it is, folks. Adding the diode in there. Now we got this thing all squared away, and definitely got to get this windshield and everything else washed. Holy molies. Yeah, so was that my issue all along? Yeah, probably. I've never run into it myself. Just I've heard of it, you know, and a lot of times guys that do race cars and this, that, and the other all know about that stuff. Usually the stuff I'm working on all has a lot of that kind of stuff built in. I've never really ran into it. But in the meantime, we did find us another problem that was causing us, that could have caused us some other issues, that those shorted wires together. But anyway, sometimes even the simplest things will kind of get you a little bit, but that's just the nature of working on cars, or really anything. So hopefully this might have helped you out in some way. Thanks for watching.